My school was too close. 200 yards, walk to school, no bike.
No, I had a bike. I had a Schwinn.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I was biking to school from about third grade on. About third grade on. Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah, it's a long time ago, obviously. I was going to say school hadn't been invented yet, not just bikes. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, was Victor Wembanyama goaltending? Should A.J. Hinch have backed Framber Valdez? And Brian Windhorst joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the NBA playoffs from last night. Both home teams won. Detroit beat Cleveland and Oklahoma City beat the Lakers as they have all season. The Pistons win was relatively close. The score was tied with 5 minutes to go. The Thunder win was not close. Oklahoma City won by 18. Wilbon, which team had the more impressive win?
Well, Tony, this isn't really even close to me. It's Detroit. I mean, first of all, the Pistons had been struggling at home over years to just win a single playoff game at home. They got past that in the first round, yeah. But they're playing an equal in Cleveland. They're playing a rival geographically, and they're playing an equal. I mean, Cleveland's been a team that's been right there nose to nose with Detroit, even though Detroit finished with the best record in the East in the regular season. And so, you know, when you got to deal with some firepower that Cleveland does have with Mitchell and Harden, and you're Detroit, which values preventing the other team from doing whatever it is they do best. That's what the Pistons do. They had to actually do that. And Cleveland hung in there. They tied this thing. Detroit had to demonstrate some resolve and did. Detroit, which has trouble scoring, got some nice scoring nights. You know, that Tobias Harris had 20 points. So Duncan Robinson had 19. So when they get a second and third scorer, and it was predicated on getting some turnovers that Cleveland coughed up, a lot of them by James Harden, it's still impressive by Detroit. The Oklahoma City, we knew where that was going with the Lakers. We really did.
Yeah, I mean, this to me went exactly as I expected it. Cleveland just got done with a series with Toronto in which they won no games on the road. So I didn't think they were going to win a road game here. And Oklahoma City had beaten the Lakers 4 times in a row by an average of 29 points. So I don't know that anyone in the world should be surprised by what happened last night. I was more interested in the MVP candidates and what they did last night. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had his worst statistical night of the season. He scored 18 points. He had scored 20 or more in about 30,000 straight games, right? He did not have that. He also had a bunch of turnovers. He had 7 turnovers, that's what Harden had. That's really a lot of turnovers. And yet Oklahoma City won easily. Cade Cunningham shot 6 for 19. This is coming out of 3 straight games against Orlando when he went 30 plus. And Detroit still won. So what I'm getting at, Mike, is that these games last night, the Lakers could have, maybe should have stolen that game, and the Cavaliers could have, maybe should have stolen that game. I don't know. Just looking ahead, I'll take 10 seconds here. Without Doncic, I don't know what they are supposed to do. Their backcourt last night, which is Austin Reeves and Marcus Smart and Luke Kennard, had 27 points total and shot 8 of 35. They're not beating anybody like that. They don't beat anybody. Nope. Nobody does.
Right. No, and we'll talk to Windhorst about Luka, but I don't know that he's coming to the rescue. So let's move to Minnesota's coach, Chris Finch, hoping to get more favorable whistles in tonight's game 2 against the Spurs. Finch said that 4, maybe even 5 of Victor Wembanyama's 12 blocks in game 1 should have been whistled for goaltending, and Finch called the fact that they were not alarming tone. What do you think of Finch's contention?
So I think he's planting a seed and hoping it grows very quickly. I mean, I think he wants an immediate effect in game 2. He made sure that the league would hear this. He made sure the referees would hear this. Our friends Pat Riley and Phil Jackson did this all the time. You can't win the game that was just played. You can't win that one. So you try to win the next one. I would assume that Finch says to himself, we won 1 game already in San Antonio. If we win another one in San Antonio, we win 2 on the road, we can steal this series. So he's trying to steal game 2 before it even happens. Do I think that Wembanyama had 4, maybe 5 goaltends? Probably not. He may have had 1 or 2. Wembanyama's 7'5". He's swatting the ball to the moon. He is a daunting presence. So if you are Finch, you're saying to yourself, if we actually beat them and he had 12 blocks, think how much easier it would be if he only had 4 or 5.
Yeah, well, even by Finch's count, he would have had 8 legitimate ones. It is more than that. There are 2 possible goaltends. There's really only one, a ball that hit the glass first. But, Tony, you mentioned key names. I'm going to add one to what you mentioned about Phil Jackson and Pat Riley. Let's add Chuck Daly, because you and I know, and we covered, and we can go back further than those guys to Larry Brown, and further back than that to Red Auerbach, and what they did ingenious on the day after a game. Sometimes the loss, in this case for Finch, a win. You're setting this thing up. It was brilliant for him to get the conversation moved in that direction. Because if you get a couple of whistles, you shouldn't in the next game. In a close game, I mean, San Antonio could have won that with that 3 at the buzzer.
To win again.
So Finch is looking at that. It's really smart, even though I disagree with his characterization. Wemby will have a much better game the next game. He is.
Well, okay, it's very smart. And now let me ask you this. Wembanyama consumes everything that is said and written and done on television about everybody's performance. He does that.
He does.
How will this affect him? Will he attempt more blocks, or will he lay back and attempt less blocks? I think that it works on 2 levels, referees and Wembanyama. So Finch did a very wise thing.
Good point.
Let's move to baseball. Yesterday we talked about Tigers pitcher Tarek Skubal. Today we will talk about Tigers pitcher Framber Valdez. Valdez hit Boston shortstop Trevor Story in the back with a fastball last night, immediately following 2 Red Sox home runs off Valdez. Valdez was tossed by the umpires. Valdez's manager, A.J. Hinch, said, and I'm quoting here, "We play a really good brand of baseball here. That didn't feel like it. It's not judging intent. I have no idea. But I know when you go out in the field and you end up in these sorts of confrontations, you usually feel in the right. It didn't feel good being out there," unquote. Wilbon, what do you think of Hinch's comments?
Tony, when I heard those comments last night, I was stunned. I was sort of admiring of it. I don't know how it plays in the locker room with your starting pitchers, because as you and I know, for 150 years, baseball managers, whether they agreed with it or not, plunking a guy after some home runs, they said they would just automatically would say things like, well, that's what happens, and they deny there was intent, and they would sort of pop their jerseys and back their pitcher. That's what they did. For 150 years, this wasn't that. By the way, Hinch has been suspended for a game, Valdez for 6, which is essentially 1 start. Automatically, the manager goes. But, Tony, Valdez, this is complicated. Valdez was 73-44 over a 6-year stretch with 25 quality starts. That was the league high in 2022. But he's also had this behavior. Remember, he crossed up his catcher and hit him with a 93-mile-per-hour sinker last year. There was also the fact that he worked with a sports psychologist because people have been worried about his behavior. And now there's this. When you're a manager, and I get it, Hinch says, no, this is not what we do. He doesn't want this. He doesn't want to back this. He doesn't want this to be the Tigers' culture. I applaud him personally. Again, don't know how it's going to play in the clubhouse in Detroit.
Yeah. So I had our friend Buster Olney on my podcast this morning, and Buster said that he felt that was totally intentional on the part of Valdez. Valdez
of course it
was having a terrible outing. Ultimately, he had 10 runs, 7 earned in officially 3 innings. This happened in the top of the 4th. He went out in the top of the 4th and served up 2 home runs, and then hit this guy in the back. Hit him with a 4-seam fastball that Buster said was the first 4-seam fastball he threw all season. Okay? And so if you're in that position, you're the manager, and you know this guy because you managed him for 2 years in Houston. That was backing away from that. And yet, look, in Hinch's position right now, he's got Skubal awaiting surgery. He's got 5 other pitchers, including 3 other starters, on the injured list, and now he loses this guy for at least 1 game, maybe 2. So in that context, he's not going to come out and say, I love what happened out there, but I agree with you. For 150 years, managers either backed it or shut up. They didn't do this. Let's take a break. I admire it, by the way. I admire it.
Me too.
And he makes more money than anybody on that team. Valdez, free agent. Coming up, Joel Embiid is out tonight against the Knicks. How does that change things for the Sixers? We're going to ask Brian Windhorst.
And we'll also ask him whether the Celtics could actually trade Jaylen Brown for Giannis. Hot stove, Tony. Hot stove in Boston and Milwaukee because they got nothing
any
else.
intent. Valdez denied intent.
Please,
the Boston manager thought it was intentional. That's what the Boston manager said.
That's what I'm going to say.
$115 million over 3 years for Valdez. Because he's a good
an
We've got NBA questions for our great friend, ESPN senior NBA writer, Brian Windhorst. Let's start with this. He's out. Joel Embiid has been declared out for tonight's game 2. How does that change what happens with the Sixers and the Knicks?
Of all the things that have happened in Embiid's career, this is a new one. He goes from probable to out on a playoff game day. It's just another line in the long saga that has been his injury history. Okay, so obviously this offensively dramatically changes the way Philly is going to approach this game. But I will point something out. And the Knicks are on a heater. There's nothing slowing them down offensively right now. But they absolutely attacked Embiid in the pick and roll in game 1. They went at him. I think Brunson went at him like 25, 27 times. So at least in this game, Philly can play a defensive style that can give them a better chance against Brunson and Anunoby. But I'm not saying that like I think it's going to be a different outcome. So what you need here is you need Maxey to go crazy. But this is going to be a golden opportunity for New York to go up 2-0. Like things are breaking their way. They're playing their best basketball at the right time. They've been healthy at the right time, knock on wood, etc. They've caught a rhythm. And this is the way it goes in the playoffs. They've got a great opportunity here.
Yes, they do. And we'll move to a team which may not have a good opportunity. The Lakers lost game 1 to the Thunder last night, as you know, Brian. What are you hearing about Luka's health and any potential return?
Yeah, so Luka spoke today for the first time really in weeks. And he revealed that when he got his MRI, the doctor said it would be 8 weeks. And so that's a moderate to severe hamstring injury. He's been out about 4 or 5 weeks. So the reality is, under that timeline, you're not expecting to see him anytime soon. Now, he didn't say what his personal timeline is. He did say he started running, but he's not done any contact. So the reality is this. Unless the Lakers can push this into late next week, I don't know, 5, 6, 7-ish, I don't think you're seeing him in this series, and I think everybody knows it. In the NBA, we never know what will happen. We always leave open doors, but I do not think you should expect to see Luka Doncic.
Well, that's going to leave probably a one-sided series in the West. Let's move to the Celtics for a second, who are, of course, done, Brian. The NBA fined Jaylen Brown for his comments on the Zebras. And as you know, Jay Will proposed a Brown for Giannis trade yesterday on this here network. You and I discussed this morning, but let's let everybody else in on this. How do you see even the possibility of Jaylen Brown going to Milwaukee and Giannis going to Boston?
If Milwaukee is ready to trade Giannis, which we seem to have a neutral zone on that, if that's true, they absolutely should call Boston. A trade with Giannis where the Bucks get a bunch of draft picks doesn't help them because they don't control their own pick for the next few years. So going into a tank situation doesn't make sense. So if they're going to trade Giannis, I'll re-underline if, you want players who can help you immediately. That would be obviously Jaylen Brown. If you're Boston, Jaylen Brown does have a contract extension option this summer. And if he wants to sign that extension, I don't see why you wouldn't sign him to it. Now, he doesn't have to extend. He's got multiple years left on his contract, but extension talks force a check-in. And, if the Celtics are looking at it, Jaylen Brown is younger. Jaylen Brown is healthier. Jaylen Brown has demonstrated he is a championship player alongside Jason Tatum. In a vacuum, you would not do that deal. But I can also see, after the way this year went and the way last year went, you may be able to get maximum value right now. I do not think Brad Stevens would do it, but it would not surprise me if the extension discussion forces everybody to evaluate their options.
So interesting. That really is. We'll get you out of here on this. It's sort of a vague question, and I probably will have a follow-up or two about tanking. But the draft lottery is Sunday. How are you sizing the draft lottery up?
Okay, every year I'm fascinated by the draft lottery. Let me just tell you one thing about it, okay? The LA Clippers are probably either going to have the number 5 or 6 pick or nothing. And that illustrates the stakes in this draft lottery. If the Indiana Pacers, who are a top 4 projected team. They have 52% to get in the top 4. They keep the pick. If the pick goes 5 or 6, which is as late as it can go, it goes to the Clippers. So you have a situation where the Indiana Pacers are either going to get to add a top 4 piece to the team that has Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton and there are other pieces that helped them, Neesmith and those guys and Nembhard and those guys. Or they're going to get no pick at all, and the Clippers may get the 5th pick. And maybe if they get the 5th pick, they think about trading Kawhi. I don't know. So that's just one aspect of the lottery. Every lottery is interesting. This one has potential to be one of the more interesting ones of the next decade because there's quality players in this draft, and there's a bunch of teams that can have instantaneous changes in their situation. Golden State could get in there. Dallas could get in there. You think Utah's nothing? Well, they have a bunch of players all of a sudden going to play. How about your Washington Wizards, Tony? In case you forgot, they have Trae Young and Anthony Davis. I know they've never played for the Wizards, but they will play for the Wizards. What if the Wizards get a top 3 pick in this draft? There's so many fascinating things. Sunday afternoon, I am going to be in the room for the first time ever because I can't wait to see how this plays out.
I just hope the tankers don't win. You know how I hope about that. Thank you, Brian, as always. Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, the Derby winner pulls out of the Preakness. That stinks.
No, that's breaking news. Load management from the horsies. Unbelievable, Tony.
Stinks. It's second year in a row. If you have a triple crown, you gotta go for the second leg of it. That's what the American public understands the Triple Crown. How do you win the Derby and not go in the... Happy time, people. Happy 36th birthday, Jose Altuve. The Astros' diminutive star is back at second base after a one-year experiment in left field. Altuve is the one important position player who stayed with the Astros throughout the aftermath of a sign-stealing scandal in 2017-2018. Carlos Correa, who just got hurt, is back in Houston, but he spent 3+ seasons in Minnesota. At 5'6", Altuve presents a small strike zone. Led Houston in walks last year with 55. Altuve began his career with the Astros in 2011. He has led the American League in hitting 3 times. He has made 9 All-Star teams. His career batting average of .302 is second only to Luis Arraez among active players, and he has surprising power, 258 home runs. Hall of Famer?
Tony, I think so, particularly when you add in 2 World Series championships. I think Altuve is a Hall of Famer. Also, by the way, Carlos Correa is having season-ending surgery for a torn tendon in his left ankle. Long recovery time. Hate hearing that about Correa.
Happy anniversary, Sir Roger Bannister. This is posthumous, but on this day 72 years ago, the British physician in training broke the mythical 4-minute barrier in the mile, running on the track at Oxford University, which was later named for Bannister. Another mythic barrier, the 2-hour marathon, was recently broken by Kenya's Sebastian Sawe. And also the second-place finisher, Ethiopia's Yamif Kajelcha, who was making his marathon debut. The current record for the mile is 3:43.13, set by Morocco's Hicham El Garouj 27 years ago. Back in the late 40s, early 50s, nobody thought anybody would pole vault 16 feet or high jump 7 feet or run 100 in under 10 seconds. They're all way in the dust now.
Tony, if Usain Bolt hadn't run through the tape, palms up, looking around, and just sort of being too cool for school, he could have set the 100 so far out there that it would not be broken in our lifetimes or those of our children. But he didn't do that. He could have.
Agreed. And a melancholy trails to Ted Turner. The media mogul has passed away at the age of 87. Turner was most famous for upending the news cycle through the creation of CNN, but his roots were also firmly in sports as a decorated sailor who won the America's Cup as skipper of Courageous back when that was a huge deal in the 70s, I believe, as the owner of the Atlanta Braves and Hawks, and as the creator of the Goodwill Games, which he hoped would rival the Olympics. Turner was a pioneer in the cable sports television, first by putting the Braves on his superstation network TBS, later by putting the NBA on TNT. He was a philanthropist and an environmental conservationist, but could also be brash and crass, and was called the Mouth of the South. His ex-wife, Jane Fonda, once called him a 3D, stereophonic, Shakespearean-level sound and light show.
What a quote. Aggressive, Tony, personally and professionally. Promoted Bill Lucas, who was in his farm system, an African-American man to GM in the early 70s when that just hadn't been done in baseball. And look what he did with Turner, with Turner, the network. He and the Cubs with GN, they put the Braves and Cubs so far out ahead of the competition with those cable ventures at that time, way, way, way ahead of his time.
Quick to the big finish. Speaking of your Cubs have won 13 straight at Wrigley. Will they make it 3 in a row over the Reds tonight?
Maybe, maybe not, but 17 out of 20 overall is what I'm most impressed with. Third best record in baseball. Here we come. Golden Tempo will not run in the Preakness. Defend your horsey, Tony.
Stinks. 2 years in a row, not Derby winner out. Stinks. Maple Leafs won the NHL lottery and draft lottery. You're happy for them, right?
No, the Blackhawks dropped. No, I'm not happy for them. I'm not happy for anybody. The Avalanche beat the Wild 5-2 to go up 2-0 in that series. That's significant, isn't it?
14 goals in 2 games. Come on, last one. Game 1 of Canadiens Sabres tonight. Who you got?
I got the Canadiens. A little soft spot, usually for both those cities. Love Montreal, love Buffalo, but I'm going with the Canadiens.
We are out of time. We'll try to do better the next time. And Brandon Martin in Oklahoma, shout out.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, knuckleheads. And now, your Sports Center.